sort of pond area near Ueno. That was really cool. We went into this big temple that's in the middle of it, and I think they were actually conducting a funeral or something like that inside. At one point when we went in there, or it might have been another time I went in there. I went to Ueno twice on my trip, or maybe 3 times. Yeah, I went quite a bit because I liked Ueno a lot, as I said, and I went in there and yeah, I got to see sort of them. They were shaking beads and doing a lot of other cool, hitting this um, big sort of this big ball thing that was making kind of a gong sort of sound multiple times. It was just a real surreal experience, and it was fun. And I talked to my cousin. We had a lot. We were talking a lot, and I remember I was very worried about my volume and actually talking on the train. And she said, "You're fine to talk with the train, just don't be loud, obviously, you know." Um, and she said our level was fine. And after a while, I realized it's just you don't want to be loud on the train, but you can have a little bit of banter, like small banter for a bit. No one's gonna really. And also as a foreigner, they expect you to be a little bit like talkative, not super loud, but a little bit talkative. They'll get angry if you're talking really, really loud, but if you're just talking for a bit, they're fine. And I think we went on another train out sort of near Tokyo area because I wanted to go to, I'm going to pronounce this wrong. I think it's Karakuen Stadium. It's a boxing stadium in Japan. And I went there. I really liked it because I'm a big fan of an anime called Hajime no Ippo. And there's some really cool boxing matches in that stadium there. I've also watched some Japanese boxing, and there's some pretty good Japanese boxers. She was almost, I think she said, "Do you want to go?" And I was like, maybe. But I was also like, I don't know. It's my first, it was my second day there. So I didn't know if I wanted to, I didn't know how much money it was going to cost, and I didn't know if I was going to be spending quite a bit on like one boxing match. Um, which would have been cool. I think I will do it next time I'm there. But we went there. We checked out the Tokyo Dome. That was pretty cool. I saw some weird Japanese pizza, I remember, on the way. And then we went to like a tempura place or something like that. I remember she got tempura and I got something else. I remember it was okay, but not that great. I think I was taking a while to get used to the food on my first day there. And so I remember we did that, and then we were gonna do karaoke, and I had made a friend at the hostel, one of the guys who was working there, and we were gonna drag him along, and he suggested a place, and then he couldn't come because he had another plan with some other people to go out drinking. And so me and my cousin just went to a karaoke bar, and I sang 3 songs in Japanese, and I sang a couple other songs in English. I think I sang an Elvis number and a Doors song and a BB King song, and then I sang a Bucktick song for anyone who knows that Japanese band, and I sang the Devilman theme song for anyone who knows anime theme songs. And my cousins sang a very famous Japanese song by, I think it's called Sukiyaki in the English version, I think. And it's by a guy called Q Sakamoto. And she sang that very well. And she sang something called Fashion Monster. And we had a fun time. I remember it was the first time for me trying Japanese beer. And I remember I liked it, and she picked a good, I think it was cherry wine or strawberry wine. It was really, no, it was definitely cherry. And I remember I had a bit of it, and it was really good. But I remember it made my throat super dry, and I had to have some water. I think I didn't have ice cream, but I had some other drink that was, I think it was like a juice or some cranberry juice or something, to try and get my throat back to good for singing. And it was also the first place I tried the squirt button on the toilet by accident. I had 2 drinks. I wasn't super drunk, but I'd had enough where I had a bit of a buzz, and I was trying to find the button to flash on the toilet. And I hit the squirt button, and I just got up out of my seat. I got up, I turned around, and I had the thing frickin' squirt right over my shoulder at the door, just water coming out of the toilet squirting. It freaked me out. And I didn't like the feeling of something squirting up, so I never used the squirter when I was in Japan, and every foreigner I met in Japan loved the squirting toilet and wanted to take it back with them. And I don't get it. I really don't get it. So yeah, we had a lot of fun. We did karaoke. I remember there was one bad thing though. There was a couple fighting in Japanese outside. This Japanese couple were just arguing, and the guy was being very, mean and abusive to his girlfriend. And so that was a bit of a damper, but I think they stopped after a while. And yeah, we just had a couple drinks. I think we just had two or three, I think, and then sang a couple songs, and then she went her way. She went back to her place, and then I went back to my place. And we did it in Asakusa because I remember she wanted to make sure I could get home all right, and the trains stop at a certain point, and you just have to stay out late. And it was my second night, not the best thing to do. So, so we stayed in Asakusa, did that, and then I went back to my place, and yeah, just slept, woke up, and then I think the next day, I think my third day was the day I went to Akihabara, and that was not as good as people think. So people who are anime fans would probably think Akihabara is like the be all end all for anime and gaming stuff. Well, I went there and there's some cool gaming stuff. There's some cool vintage cameras and things like that around. But I found the arcades were really disappointing, and you could actually find better arcades in other areas, other districts in Japan. Even Asakusa had a pretty good arcade that had a lot of variety, because the biggest issue I found was there were so many frickin' train game UFO catchers, like just dozens of them and dozens of arcades. And yeah, there were like other floors, but then they were just like boring Moe rhythm games that were just crap. So there was those two things. And then I remember just walking around. I wanted to get some manga because, as I said, I really like Hajime no Ippo, but they've never done an official manga release of the series here. And it's also hard to get the anime here as well because they only did the first season and only a couple episodes. So I went out and I bought. I wanted to go out and buy I wanted to buy some manga. And I got in to the first shop, and I don't remember what it's called. I think it was called Anna something, or it was some shop in Akihabara. And I remember it was a manga shop, but I think maybe they had some anime or something. It was called something weird. I know it's one of the big ones that people go to. And I'm blanking on the name at the moment. But I went to that place, and I remember I was absolutely disgusted when I got in. Like I've been an anime fan a long time, and I've seen some fan servicey stuff, and yeah. But I walked in there, and I remember the first thing I saw was shelves of books. Like it was like Western, not like US releases of manga. And then some other stuff, and then I could see sort of maybe like a yaoi area sort of near the back, like a sign for it and some stuff in there, and then just some other regular stuff. And then right next to me, to the right of me, was a staircase, and right above it, and I'm gonna put a big explicit tag here, so yeah, sorry if I'm going to put this image in your head. It disturbed me just as much as it might disturb you picturing it. There was a 14, no, not even 14, I'd say 12-year-old girl who was like an anime manga sort of style girl with maybe only a t-shirt on, with her full-on vagina completely out, legs spread straight open. And this was right above the door, and I looked like I was just like shocked and stood there for a couple of seconds, and then saw some people go down, had a peek, and I could just see like I didn't go down, I didn't look, but I could just like I was just like, if that's the poster for the top part, I don't want to know what's down there. And I remember I went through the shop, and there wasn't too much of that, thankfully. There was a couple like titles that were a bit adult, shall we say. But thankfully, some of those there were at least characters of age that were like semi-nude. And eventually, I managed to find the manga that I wanted. They had one copy of Hajime no Ippo. It was one copy of it, and it was like the fifth or like 354th volume of the series. And I was like, well, I want to support it. I want to buy it. This is the only one they have. So I bought that. I found out later I could have went anywhere else because I think it was 200 yen or some ridiculous price like that. And what I found is there was a much better place I think in Ikebukuro, and a couple other. It's a national chain that they have a lot in Japan. It's called Book Off. And I remember I went in there, and all their manga is 100 yen. And 100 yen, I don't know the exact equivalent going off my head, but I know 100 yen is like it's as common as like 10 or $5. It's you can get a lot of things with 100 yen, and that's pretty cheap. It's not like ridiculously expensive. I think the most you'd find is like you'd find in Book Off, you'd find a volume for like 107 or like 102 yen, but most things were like 100 yen for most of their manga catalog. And so I went in there. I was a bit disappointed. I saw the Gundam Cafe, which was right next to the AKB48 Cafe, and that was kind of silly. And then yeah, I wanted to buy some like merch, not figures. I wanted to buy clothing, and I was looking around, and I couldn't find anything that wasn't shows I didn't like. I generally like seinen and shonen stuff for our anime audience. I don't really like the fan servicey. I've watched a couple of them, but I don't necessarily want to wear some of those shirts. And yeah, just I didn't find any clothing stuff that was cool. There was some cosplay stuff that was pretty cool, but I wasn't interested in that. I wanted to really just buy like a cool Dragon Ball Z shirt that had Piccolo doing something, or if there was a Hajime no Ippo shirt or something like that, or a Hellsing shirt, or a Silent Hill shirt, which I doubt they'd have, but I was hoping they'd have something. They didn't have much video game merch either. They had a couple PlayStation shirts and things like that, but no real cool like stuff I wanted. So I was kind of disappointed. I then went on a quest to find Super Potato, because I'd heard this was the place, be all end all for like playing video games, buying video games. And then I got there and I realized it was pretty small. The other thing I realized too is there was stuff I wanted, but I realized if I wanted, they didn't have any PAL games. I should have just realized that. I thought they'd maybe have one or two, like a couple here or there, but they didn't have a single PAL game. It was all Japanese region lock. And for PS3 and Xbox, that's fine, but I still own a PS2, and I wanted to buy some rare Japanese PS2 games. But I realized what I should have done is just bought a Japanese PS2 and some Japanese games, and I didn't end up doing that, but that's something I could have done. I think I did have the money, but I didn't think I did at the time, so I didn't end up doing that. I went out of that place. I bought a terrible drink called Cow Piss, which I know you're hearing that name, you're like, well, it must be bad. It's called cow piss, but it's not literal cow piss. It's, I think it's like milk and something. It's like an energy drink. I might be getting it mixed up with another drink. It might be getting it mixed up with Pocari Sweat. Although I think it was cow piss. I think it was. But I remember I had it and it was freaking awful. It tasted really weird. I felt like my tongue was twisting or something. So I did that. I had to ask around for a bathroom. Obviously, I used the wa doko desu ka and then toire at the front. And I ended up going into like a really fancy hotel and using their bathroom, which I was a little worried, but they were fine with that. And yeah, then I ended up going to a burger place in Japan called Moss Burger. And on the way there, I got my first ever time getting approached by someone on the street in Japan. And this was someone trying to get people into this art gallery thing. She was really trying to push. And she could speak some English. So she was trying to talk to me in English. And I spoke to her in a bit of Japanese. And she's like, oh, you can speak some. And I was trying to, I had a look and I was like, okay, I'll go in. And I went in for about 5 minutes. And I was like pointing out things and looking at things. And I found something that looked like it was a Ainu photo thing. For those who don't know, Ainu are the original people of Japan. They are, yeah, they're like the Native Americans of Japan. And so I wanted, I saw this and I was like, oh, this is cool. But it's a postcard. And I don't really buy postcards. I don't buy big, I don't mind like photos and things like that, but there was nothing really cool. And I didn't want to, it was my third day. I had kind of was hoping to save my money on manga and clothing and food and some other stuff, which I, did end up spending on. But when I got there, she was trying to push me to buy these things, and she kept on asking, and I kept on going EA, and saying these other things. And then after a while, she went, "Your Japanese isn't that great." I went, "Okay." And then I was speaking to her in English a little bit and saying like, "Oh no, thank you very much, but no, I'm not interested." And so I went out, and then I went. Thankfully, right next door was the Moss Burger, which was a burger place. I didn't go to any other burger places in Japan. I didn't go to McDonald's. I didn't go to KFC. I didn't go to anything like that. I just went to Moss Burger, and I went into Moss Burger, and their burgers I found were not that bad. They tasted really healthy actually. They didn't taste like super fattening. They just were really small. I remember like they felt like a mini burger. Like they felt like you're getting a Happy Meal burger versus like an actual adult sized burger. So I felt like I should have got two. I only got one, and I think I got a drink with that, like a Coke or something. And that was okay. I think it was a teriyaki burger or something. And that was fine. It did the job, but it wasn't perfect. So I went and got that burger, and then I left. I walked around Asakusa a bit. I tried going to one other arcade. I ended up finding another game shop that was actually, it wasn't like as well known. It was a little bit. It was about one floor, I think. It wasn't like two floors. It was just one floor. But they had a better catalog, I found, of games. They just had better stuff. They didn't have as much stuff, but they had better stuff. And I ended up buying. My friend Eric wanted a game from Japan, so I bought him something that was Japan only. For him to take back. It took me a while to decide on something. And then I ended up going back to I ended up going to another. I tried looking at arcades, and as I said, I got really pissed with how many bloody so many UFO catchers at every single bloody store. It was, oh god, so many arcades. And there was finally one which I went to that had like a couple racing games downstairs, and I ended up playing Mario Kart, and that was fun. It was really cool, getting to be in sort of the actual car type thing, driving around, and I played a bit on the DS, but I'd never played it in the arcade, so that was really cool. I found out the one arcade in Asakusa actually had Mario Kart, a Gundam game, and a bunch of other things that not all these arcades in Akihabara had. And I was trying to find this might sound a bit ridiculous, but I really like Tetris, and I had heard there were Tetris arcade machines in Japan. So I looked around for that. I finally found one arcade, and it was right in the smoking area. So I had to put up with a bit of smoking. But I found that, and I found a Tekken machine as well, and those are the two games that I wanted to play. I ended up playing for I played 2 games of Tekken. I got my ass completely whooped. Before I could even figure out what combos I wanted to do, I think one guy just got me on complete perfect. I got 2 hits in on the second time playing, But yeah, I just got my ass completely whooped playing there. And I even tried like going for my mains and then not going for my main. But no, I got my ass whooped. But I did pretty well on the Tetris machine. I'm pretty good at Tetris, I've got to say. I played like I got, what did I get up to? I got up to like at least the fifth or fourth. Like I played, well, there's not necessarily levels. It just gets faster. But I played for like I think at least 30 minutes or something. Like I got a pretty good score. So I was happy I did that. But at the end of the day, I wasn't enjoying the environment of Akihabara. It felt like everything that I don't like about anime is in Akihabara. Like everything I don't like about it. And all the things I do like about it are in other areas of Japan or other shops. Like I went to a shop called Mandarake, um, in Japan, and that shop is also in Akihabara, but I went to one in Shibuya, and I found there was only one or two things that really creeped me out, or things I didn't like about the culture as much. There was a lot more like cool rare stuff, things I didn't expect, and just a fun experience of taking my friend from the Netherlands who we hanged out one day. I guess I can move on to this actually because it's more interesting. So my fourth day after that shitty day in Akihabara, I think it was either my fourth or my fifth day. I ended up hanging out with Nick, oh no, it was definitely my fifth day because me and him weren't quite friends. We had sort of met and we had talked, but we ended up hanging out on the fifth day, and because he wanted to go into Shibuya, and I think I'd been once, or maybe I hadn't been. And we went in there, we got to see the cool, the dog statue, and we walked around, and I remember the point to make about my Mandarake thing is we went into Mandarake. He's not at all, I think he's somewhat familiar with anime culture, but he doesn't really like it, doesn't like manga or anything like that, which is fine. Not everybody who comes to Japan has to like that stuff. I wasn't that big into it even when I came there. I was a little bit into it. As I said, I wasn't keeping up with it as much before I left. But when we were there, I remember we were walking through and we walked down one aisle and there was all these fans, like actual fans, with faces of voiceover actors in Japan and singers on them. And I was like, oh, cool. And I looked around, I was like, maybe there's I think these are for like, I knew they were kind of for girls, but I was like, oh, this is cool. And I was trying to see if there was like a one for any of the older voice actors that I like that have got the real gruff voices. I want to see if there was like a one with Norio Wakamoto, if anyone knows who that is. He's the voice of Cell in Japan and a couple other voices. And I thought it'd be kind of funny to see one of those fans of him on it. But we were looking around and I knew this was sort of girly, and I had a feeling once we walked down, I was like, oh, this is the girls manga section. Like, not the show, for those who don't know, there's shonen and shoujo. Shonen is boys targeted manga book comic, and shoujo is female targeted books. And I had a feeling it would be maybe that type of stuff, or maybe what they call josei, which is adult woman targeted material. But when we got in there, I realized after within 5 minutes, because I've went to a couple conventions and hanged around some girls who are into this stuff, it was what we call boys love or yaoi stuff in that section. And I had, I've seen stuff, I've seen my friends have some of these volumes. I've been to conventions where I've seen these volumes. And the thing with most of them, I don't find them that like disturbing or disgusting or anything, because most of the time they're adult male. If there wasn't any what you'd call shota, which is like young boy stuff, it was mostly adult men or men who were teenagers but looked kind of adult. And most of the time, at most, they might have their shirt off, but they wouldn't have anything off. You wouldn't be seeing genitals or anything like that. It's most of the stuff that girls actually find attractive, like the body and things like that. So we're walking through there, and I remember there was a really funny couple that was right next to us. This woman was with her boyfriend, and she was looking, and she's like, "Oh, do you think your mum would like this?" And he's like, "Hell no!" right next to us. And then my friend Nick he had the same look that I had when I got into Akihabara, seeing that horrible photo above the staircase. He had that exact same expression walking through this yaoi section. Just he was like, "What the fuck? What is this shit? What is this? This is what girls like." I'm like, yes, girls like some of this stuff. And he was just completely shocked. And I was just like laughing, just having a good time because I didn't find it that shocking or that crazy, but it was just funny seeing his reaction. And there was some cool stuff in Mandarake. Not as much merch as I'd like still. I found the best place to get merch was a little shop in Ueno when I went the second time. There was a little hobby shop in there that was really cool. Where I got some stuff for my friends as well. But yeah, Mandarake was cool. And the other thing that I liked about Mandarake and other places that are different from, just to get back to Akihabara just for a bit, big problem I had with Akihabara, and this is sort of, you see this a bit in other places in Japan, but it was in every shop I remember in Akihabara. Every top floor had a actual porn section, like actual porn, just actual, like you have a big naked woman on the front, and then at the top was just all pretty sure DVDs and magazines and shit. I didn't go up there at all because I stayed completely. Yeah. Not gonna get into it. But there was a whole section of that completely on the top floor, and when I went to Mandarake, they didn't have that. That's the one good thing about not having that. Well, they might have, but I didn't see it. So that was kind of nice. But Shibuya was really cool, and I remember we found one really good ramen place. But funnily enough, to get to the ramen place, we went up through this little gate area. We walked through, and there was a big red sign behind us, and it had the word district on it. And we walked through, and we saw these love hotels, and I realized we were in the love hotel district. We were in sort of a red light district sort of area. It was the middle of the day, so we were fine. But I remember we walked through, and my friend was like, what is this district? I'm like, I think we're in the red light district, or the love hotel district. And so yeah, we walked through there in the middle of the day. I don't think there was anything going on, but it was the middle of the day. And because I did walk for a couple in a couple other areas, and when you go through those at night, you'll see people to the sides trying to get people to come in. And sometimes they might be Yakuza or some other affiliation of crime. But basically, we walked through that area and we found a really good ramen place, and that was the best ramen I had in Japan. I didn't really like ramen in Japan, but that was the best ramen I had there. That was really good. And then I think we ended up going to a 7-Eleven for a bit after that. And then, yeah, we just walked around Shibuya. I sadly did not go to Yogi Park. That's the one thing I do wish I went and did, because I heard a lot of good things about it. I've seen some cool photos of the place. So I kind of wish I went there, but I didn't. So we did that. We went to the world's, Japan's biggest Starbucks, where we just talked and bonded, and it was a fun experience. And I liked Shibuya. Shibuya's a cool area. I did go back there, not that night, but on another night I went back to Shibuya, and I thought I would try my luck at maybe see if I could not do some dating, but maybe a hookup, maybe something like that. And I thought I would go have a beer or something. And I went to Shibuya. I walked around for a bit that time, and I got like a pork meatball that was amazing. I had to walk through pachinko machines though, which, by the way, pachinko are like these massive gambling ball machines, and they are fucking noisy. And I hated them for a little bit because they were noisy, and two, they had really cool anime stuff that I did like old school anime stuff on all their banners and stuff. And you'd see the picture before you'd see the pachinko machine. So you'd think, oh, cool, Lupin the Third or Fist of the North Star or something like that. And you'd walk and you go, oh, fuck, it's a fucking pachinko machine thing. So I saw that. I was really disappointed. So yeah, I ended up walking through there, ended up getting food, and then I ended up going to a hub, which is an English bar, because I had been told that it's the best place to meet people. What I realized is that's the best place to meet English-speaking Japanese people. And I did want to also just meet people as well. I was kind of happy. I met some Nigerian people and I talked with them. I had a drink with them. They seemed like nice people. And then I tried hitting on this Japanese woman, and I got a bit taken back when she started speaking really good, perfect English to me, and not just English, like English, England English, if that makes any sense. And just took me a little bit back, and I didn't know what to say. I tried, talking, but I had sort of planned, I did that horrible thing where you plan in your head what you're gonna say before you say it to the person. And I had done that, but I'd done that in Japanese. And so then I didn't have an idea of what I was gonna say if they spoke English, or if they'd spoke broken English. So I ended up speaking, this person just took me by surprise, because, trying to speak English to me, I was speaking English to her, and I think we got for about maybe 2 seconds of conversation, until after a while I took my drink, and she's like, oh, okay, we're heading out over here, we'll catch you later. I was like, oh, I know what that means. So yeah, got struck down there, thought I'd try my luck one more time. Went to another place. Probably should have went with someone, because I know it does look a bit weird and creepy, but I had made some friends there, so I thought I was fine. But whatever. I thought I'd go to another place. I ordered a whiskey. I went into there. I saw 3 girls. One of them I thought was really attractive, and so I went up and I thought I'll be more direct this time, because last time I was less direct. Last time I just introduced myself. I said, hey, didn't quite make a compliment. That's probably maybe my mistake. I think this girl was quite forward, or she wanted someone who's quite forward. So I thought, Japanese girls, I'd heard, you don't want to be too forward. But I thought, well, maybe that's not the case in Shibuya. Maybe you have to be more forward here. So I went up and I sort of said, hi. Didn't introduce my name. I said, hi, I think you're really... I said the dumb thing, which is like, I think you're really pretty or something like that. Thing most guys say, but it's what I had learned in Japanese. I think I said kawaii something, or cute. Yeah, I think I said you look really cute. And she turns to me. She looked like really embarrassed, a bit nervous, and I was like thinking, oh, she's just a bit embarrassed, a bit nervous, like maybe maybe this could go somewhere. But within 2 seconds. She talks to her friend, and then her friend turns to me, and she says, and she points her hand behind her, and she goes, husbando, or husbandu, or some sort of equivalent of husband. And she points, and I see this angry guy behind the bar, this Japanese guy, who's just staring at me angry. Oh. So I sculled my whiskey. I said arigato, sculled my whiskey, and bowed, and then left and went straight on the train home. I could have maybe went somewhere else, but I was like, no, not doing that. And I was a bit tired, and since I had this ear problem, I was actually my vertigo, which I had at that time, and I still don't have. Actually, I don't have it anymore, which is really nice. I haven't really had any bad vertigo lately since I've had an operation, which I'll get into on a later story. But since I had that, I haven't had vertigo. But I had vertigo then, and so I felt like I was swaying even more, and it's like, I need to get home. So I just went home. I went straight on the train, and yeah, that was that. That was my second time in Shibuya. And then where else did I go? I think I stopped in Ginza like for a little bit. It's kind of boring. I guess I could talk about my favorite things. So I'd say one of my favorite things. I think this might have been my fourth or maybe my sixth day because I walked around. I walked around Asakusa twice, or no, three times when I was there, like doing a big walk around the whole place. I did that at least three times. And I did it on my last day, and I did it on one of the days I was there before my last. And I decided I was just gonna like go for a really long walk because one of my favorite things to do, as you might have heard in the first podcast, is I love to walk. I love to just do a really long walk, put some music on, do some walk. And I didn't have my headphones. This time I just went for just a regular walk, no music, just walking. And it was really cool because it was a weekday. So the streets weren't that crowded. But I did get to see some businesses sort of open. I got to see just the regular Japanese life as I walked all the way through Asakusa, going through some of like getting out of the main city hub and sort of walking towards the first bridge into Sumida City, which is if you want to see Japan as not the touristy areas, just like just a regular area and not see as many tourists. Go into Sumida and you'll see that. Like I went in there, walked across the bridge, I got in there, and I just walked down this little alleyway with there was some bikes and some scooters coming through, and I got to see the post office and a couple little like cafes on the side and a laundromat, and I remember there were like little signs around for their politicians and stuff, and just getting to regular people converse as they're walking around. And I ended up walking and getting some food at a Lawson's and using their toilet and internet because the the convenience stores in Japan are amazing. The Family Marts that I didn't really enjoy the Family Mart that much, but the Lawson's was my all-time favorite because their Wi-Fi always worked. They had a toilet available, and they always had somewhere you could put your rubbish. And I remember when I walked around Sakusa, the most annoying thing before I went across the bridge was I had got a milk tea, and I was drinking this milk tea, and I couldn't for the life of me find a rubbish can. So I was just walking around trying to look for a rubbish can, and eventually I managed to find one, but it took me so long. I had to go to like a bathroom. And so I found out that, if you find a convenience store, you're probably going to find a rubbish bin. And especially if you find a Lawson's, you're going to find a toilet, a rubbish bin, and Wi-Fi. I really enjoyed that. So I went and I chilled there for a little bit, and I just checked out Sumida, the area, just walked around there, and it was just really cool to take in this area. And I'd definitely do it again. It was probably one of the biggest highlights for me, just walking around, seeing the general life. I walked even to like another station that was a couple blocks away in Sumida. There was some cool stuff around there, lots of cool trees and plants, and I eventually saw like a tennis court and some other things. It's really cool. It's really cool. And then, so what did I do after that? I then guess the big thing people want to hear probably is my trip to Osaka. So I ended up buying a bullet train ticket. I found I can't sleep on the bullet trains. Some people can. And before I went into Osaka, actually, I will touch on this. Maybe I won't get into this. Maybe I will. Actually, it is a fun story, so we'll talk about it. So, first thing I did was I went into Shinjuku. I had never been into Shinjuku, and I decided I was going to do the night in Osaka, not the day. And that led to some other troubles that I'll get into. But basically, I took the Yamanote line, which is the train line it stops through Shinjuku and Shibuya and a bunch of other places. And I went from there, from Ueno, from Asakusa to Ueno, then to Shinjuku. And I decided, since I was going to go into Osaka, it was my birthday that day as well, I decided I wanted to look nice. So I bought a suit. And I had a suit that I decided to wear and I walked around and I pretended like I was a businessman a little bit, walking around. It was kind of fun. And I thought, well, I want to go up to a really tall building and I want a good view of the city from Shinjuku. Now, I should have went to the Tokyo Metropolitan Building. I didn't. I didn't find it. I just went to the first one I saw that was 50 stories high. And I went into an elevator. I didn't have permission to go up. I wasn't an employee at this place. I just went up. And I hope people thought that I was a businessman. The elevator stopped at one of the floors where there was like cubicles and stuff, where there was like a, businessy sort of area. And someone got in with me and I was like, oh shit, I might get kicked out of this, or, I might get in trouble and lose my reason, place to live here. So I just sort of waited and we didn't talk. They got off at the next floor and then I went to the very top floor and I sneakily took a photo from the 50th floor, and I found wasn't that great of a photo because the giant window was just completely dirty. It was the one dirty place I'd got into Japan, and it wasn't that clean. And it looked like, if you look at the photo, it looks like it's snowing or something, and it's actually just the grime on the window. So that was a little bit disappointing. But I was happy I took the adventure, and I was happy I did that. And then I ended up walking around Shinjuku. I ended up getting a really good cheap meal there. It made me realize how expensive Japanese food is in New Zealand compared to Japan, where I got a set of ramen and like a full curry thing, and oh man, it was such a big meal, and it was like $5, the equivalent of like $5 or $10 for something I would pay $20 to $30 for in New Zealand. Oh no, I'd pay 30 to 40 actually for that big. Like I paid 20 for one of these things by itself, for the ramen or the curry. But this was for them both. I was blown away by how cheap it was. So I walked around there. I was tempted actually to go to an Indian place because it looked really authentic. And there was they were cooking stuff that I'd never seen, using things that I'd never seen, like that looked like authentic traditional things. But I went from there to Osaka and I went on the bullet train. And bullet train, I ended up buying a manga before I got on the bullet train. Actually, man, I'm trying to figure out how to plan the story out. So I bought this manga. It was a big Shonen Jump, which has a bunch of the shonen titles in it. And I did end up also walking around Tokyo Tower and walking around the park there. That was kind of cool. I got into Chiyoda City. That is the main big area. Probably most people have been in Tokyo. I found the area was really rude and not very nice compared to every other district I went to in Tokyo. But I went there. I got my book and I headed on the train to Osaka. And then as I was on the way to Osaka, I had to stop through in Shin Osaka, and then I wanted to get off at a place called Namba, which is where Dotonbori is, which is this big giant river bridge and stuff. It's a big tourist thing you'll know from Osaka. It's really cool and there's lots of food and stuff. And what ended up happening was I got off, walked all the way to the wrong exit, and I walked around for hours trying to find how to get to this place, not realizing I had taken the wrong exit and I was on the complete other side of the city. And I ended up walking. I got to see some cool stuff at night. I got to see a big kabuki theater thing. And I got that I got to see some regular life stuff as well. I didn't eat food for some stupid reason. I didn't just go into I didn't go into a drinking place or a food place because I really wanted to have traditional Osakan food, and there was not a lot of I was having trouble finding traditional Osaka places, and I wanted to eat it at Dotonbori, so I was like, no, I'm gonna wait. And I stupidly walked around for 5 hours to the point where I got really lost and I wasn't near anything like food wise or anything. And I was almost about to give up. And then I think it was about maybe 10:30, 9 o'clock. I got to the station. I was like, fuck it. I'm going back to the station and I'll see where I go from there. So I did that, got back to the station, realized if I walked all the way back and then made another turn, and then made another turn, I would be where I needed to be. So I did that. I walked all the way there, finally got to Dotonbori, finally got some octopus balls. They were fucking amazing. Just absolutely loved them. And I also had a thing called an okonomiyaki, which I've had recently. It didn't taste as good as I remembered. Maybe it was just how hungry I was that night, or maybe it was just because I think it was Hokkaido style I had recently, and this one was Osaka style. But it tasted pretty good. I remember I just scoffed it down because I was freaking starving. And then I ran into an issue. The issue that I ran into was the other stupid thing I didn't do, which was I didn't book a place for that night. I thought I could pop into Osaka, and I thought, oh, I'll have enough. I'll get a place. And what I found was it's a lot harder than you think to just book a place at night. You can't just turn up sometimes to places. The other thing I found as well that was really hard was I technically had the money, but I didn't bring it with me. I was $1 short for every place I went to. Every place I went to was like, I think a 2,000 or it was some sort of number like that. And I remember every place I went to, I was either $1 short or like $4, $2 short or something. Like it wasn't too crazy, but it was crazy enough to make me think, wow, I had like a couple more dollars I could have bought with me. And actually, I've still got like at least, maybe 1,000. Yeah, not 1,000, but I've got at least a decent little bit of money even still left now from my trip that I could have used to get myself a place that night. And I didn't, but when I got lost in Osaka, like the first time when I was lost in Namba on the other side, I had found a net cafe, and that was my idea of what I was going to maybe stay at when I realized the hotels were too expensive, and even the love hotels were too expensive for me. And I ended up getting a lot of strange looks, funnily enough, from this cross-dresser guy who was advertising a bar in drag. And he was just looking at me. I was like, oh, sorry, man. Like, he was in the Love Hotel district advertising this bar. And yeah, I was just walking around there constantly. And it got to the point where it was so late, I definitely couldn't get a train home as well. So I couldn't just jump on the next one. And what I maybe could have done is just gone to a bar that night and just drank the whole night and then just, went on the next train, because I didn't end up getting much sleep in the end anyway. But what I ended up doing was I ended up going to the first net cafe on the other side, because I finally knew where to go now. So I went there, and that place was, I didn't run into much racism or much people being shitty to me. But at that place I did. I found there were two guys there, and I remember they were saying things like stupid gaijin, stupid foreigner to me in Japanese, forgetting that I could actually speak Japanese, and I was trying to speak to them and trying to say, hey, what is I need a room for the night. What's cheap, what's the cheapest? And I didn't quite use cheap, I think, the right way. And they were just being real impatient, and the way I phrased it was, I said, I need a room for the night. I have this much. What can I get? And I kept on like I put the money after a while on the table, and I was like showing them, I have this much money. What can I get for the night? And they just weren't saying anything, and they were just being real like aggro, and just gave me a bad vibe. And I got to see, the good thing was that night I also got to see a really cool street drummer around the same time, who I talked to for a bit and hung out and watched him drum, which was cool. But at the end, I needed to find a place. So what did I do? So I found another cyber cafe, and I was going to my phone was running out of battery as well, so I couldn't. There were hostels in the area, but I was gonna walk to one. One was about maybe 15 minutes away from me, but my phone was running out of battery to the point where I wouldn't be able to use Google Maps for as long as I needed to walk. And I already knew I got lost in Osaka. It was like pitch black. I didn't really want to risk it again, so I just went to another cyber cafe, and I got there, or cyber slash manga cafe, I guess. And I got my one other time I got stopped in Japan, which was by a pretty sure maybe a prostitute or something like that. Massage parlor place kept on trying to offer me rub, kept on saying things like this, kept on trying to get me to come in. I just kept on saying no. This was about maybe 12, or oh no, 11. Yeah, it was about 11:30, maybe sometime like that. And I went into the place, and there was a couple there, a guy and a girl, and they were just so patient. They were so friendly with me. They were just being so nice with me, and we ended up going through Google Translator a little bit until eventually I just said, I think I said Yasui or some sort of expression that means cheap. And they said, oh, cheap. And they pointed at the first option on the paper. And I found out later I could have afforded, when I looked at the website later on, I could have afforded to get something a little bit more expensive that would have given me a better sleep, because I ended up sleeping in like a desk chair that could fold back a little bit, but they also had a lazy boy that you could sleep in for a little bit more that I should have taken, that was a bit more guarded in as well, like you'd actually get. And I ended up having to sleep in this like lazy boy by a computer, wrapping I didn't have like a beanie, I had my beanie with me, I put that over my eyes, I put my scarf over my beanie, try and really block out all the sounds and stuff, and just tried to sleep. And I got about 4 hours, maybe 3 or 4 hours sleep. It also freaking smelled in there as well. Some of the people next to me, I think, lived there. One thing I found too that I found out was young people aren't going to the in Osaka at least, aren't going to the love hotels to hook up. Or at least for dates, they're going to at night I saw like a lot of couples go down to the bottom rooms. They were actually beds, and I think hooking up, down there. Because I saw a lot of couples like come down holding hands, going through but drunk. So yeah, no, I found that, and then I was gonna ask for a shower, and I found out I would have to wait till I'd have to wait like maybe 8 hours or some crazy time like that, because of how many people were on the sheet to have a shower next. So I was just like, screw it, I don't smell that bad, I'll just leave. So I left, and I thought about for a second. I thought, well, maybe I could stay, and see the other sides of Osaka. But at that point, I was so tired. I had even considered going to Kyoto, but I was like, no, I'm just gonna go back to Tokyo. So I took the bullet train all the way back to Tokyo, and I did the one thing that I think you just have to do sometimes, which is I just slept for, I think, like I slept for 5 hours. And then the next day, I did that walk around Sumida. That I just talked about. I did that whole walk around Asakusa. So I felt like, no, I don't want to go on the train. I don't want to, go out massively. I relaxed even at the hostel a little bit. I just hanged out there for a bit and had some snacks and talked with some of the people there, some of the patrons, some of the people owning there. I talked to the lady who was really into metal. I wish I talked to her more. That was cool. And then, so my final days, I guess I could say, I did Ueno again. I got to see some cool buskers, some rappers, all the cool stuff. I went around at night and I looked for records and stuff as well. It's a cool area, as I said. And then I went and saw my cousin one last time. But before I saw my cousin, we ended up going. I met two Australians on my second to last day, I think it was, and I showed them all around Sumida and Saksa, and we walked massively around everywhere. Just showed them everything. To the point where we got lost, and I talked as long as I've been actually talking probably now. And he talked a bit as well, thankfully. I didn't just talk the whole time. But I found one cool thing. I found a hot tea machine that was really cool. But we just basically talked and hanged out. And then we got approached, my final approach. And I want to talk about this story because this is very funny. So my final time that I got approached was on the street with this guy. He's a Greek-Australian dude, pretty decent looking guy. And this older lady starts speaking to us in English, just saying hi, how are you enjoying the trip? And I respond to her in Japanese, and I see her eyes suddenly light up, and she looks at me and she starts going on this massive rant about this big religious thing, about the true sect, all this stuff, like this crazy religious rant thing. And she's telling me about this place and how she wants us to come there. And I'm just nodding my head, and my friend's like, what's going on? I'm just like, just give me a sec. I'm just listening. And after a while, I'm like, yeah, she wants us to join a cult. And she kept on asking me, oh, you're going to come? I'm like, tomorrow. I'm like, ashta. Kept on telling her that because my flight was, the next day. This was my last day, actually. Because I had one last day. Yeah, second last day. Man, I'm tired. I had that happen. we had a good laugh about it, and talked to the lads a bit, got one of their phone numbers or something, and talked to them and said, oh yeah, we'll catch up at some point. Wouldn't mind catch up with them. If you're listening, Tom, I would like to catch up with you. I think I've still got your phone number. You can always email me or something if you want. It'd be cool to catch up, see how you're doing after the trip. But yeah, my last day I ended up spending with my cousin, and I was sick. I'm pretty sure the flu or the cold or something. It was pretty bad. And I remember I don't think it was a bad meal. I think I was just sick and I couldn't handle it. I had like this chicken porridgey soup thing, which I've had stuff like that before. But it was a little bit different. There's like fried chicken in it. I remember my stomach just wasn't going with it. And then I had ice cream. And ice cream in Japan, I don't think is that good. It has too much salt in it. Like, it tastes really salty. So I didn't quite like that. I was happy my cousin bought me ice cream though. And we were walking around this sort of hipstery area. That was kind of cool. Lots of cool shops. We went through a couple of record shops, and I bought some cheap sunglasses that I wore. And then I ended up almost being late for my flight because I was running a bit late. I had to catch 2 trains and then another big train to get back to all the way to Narita Airport. And I had to get my luggage too. So I had to do all of that. And then I finally got on the train. And I got there and I was thinking, holy shit. I mean, I think I even called my mum. I'm like, holy shit, I think I'm going to be late for my flight. Oh, god damn it, Connor. So I got all the way there and I was thinking, oh crap, I've missed my flight. And then I go to the booth and I see there's someone waiting there, and I go, Connor Marston, they go, oh, Connor Marston, we've been waiting for you. And they just scan my ticket, they push me through. Turns out, they must have been doing like some sort of custom thing or something that's taking longer than usual because no one was boarding yet. It was still, they were getting close to. And I think just because the line's so long to board. So I ended up waiting there for a bit, having my, last Japanese snack and meal there. And then, got back on the last flight. And it's funny, when I finished the trip on my last couple of days, because I was a little bit sick and because I hadn't much sleep from the Osaka thing, I did think, I don't want to, be here. I want to go back home now. I was feeling a bit homesick. But I feel like now I wish I'd put up with it a bit better, and I wish I'd just put up with it and stayed longer. Because when I got back after 2 weeks, after 2 weeks of I wanted to go back. I missed like so much of the things and the sounds, and I just realized how much I really liked it over there. And yeah, I kind of wish I had stayed there a little bit longer. So I'm planning maybe next couple years, maybe the year after this year, to go to Osaka, maybe Fukuoka. I'd like to see a bit more of that side of Japan. As I said, I did one night in Osaka. I feel like I've seen plenty of Tokyo. I mean, there were some cool places, like I went to a jazz club in Taranobaba, I think that's how you pronounce it. That's a cool place, and that was a cool experience because you got to see, no matter where anyone was from, everybody can connect through music. And jazz musicians there are just on a whole nother level. So yeah, I do miss it, and I do plan on going on it, and hopefully this got all the Japan talk out of me, and I won't be bothering my friend with talking about Japan all the time with all my friends. If you do have any questions for me though, you are welcome to email me. I'll put an email in the show link, in the show, and some other contact details. Thank you. This has been Insert Cast Episode 2.